All right, everybody, welcome back to the Roots of Barbering YouTube channel. Back here with my uso. Uso means brother in my native Samoan language. My uso Gio, and we're following up on our last episode, which was talking about your purpose and why as to becoming a barber. So, what's the next step? You've identified your why. You've identified your purpose. You're sure this is what you want to do. So what's the next step from there? All right, so I'm going to bring Gio on. We're going to partner up and get to the meat and potatoes of what we think the next step would be, or what your options are. You there, brother?
Yay, man. How you doing, man?
Hey, man with a dope hat. Shoot, I gotta find one that color, man. I can't. It's hard to find. I got a big head, man. It's hard to find hats for big head dudes, man.
We got a
Shoot.
I got a custom thing here in up north, where I always go, and I just they already been here for over 100 years, So I even got this. I even got my initials in it, man. Look at it.
Oh, okay.
Oh
Oh, shoot.
yeah,
For the
man.
left.
But I lost my feather, so I don't like that. But I like your hat as well, It's kind of
Oh, that's dope.
dope color,
That's dope. Oh, I mean, speaking then of your tailor, right? If they've been around for 100 years, I mean that also is another skilled trade, right?
Yeah,
Tailors.
yeah, it
So
is.
if they've been around that long, and even nowadays it's hard to find a good one.
Yeah,
Uh,
tell me about it.
So now with barbering, like barbering's been around so long, and you hear a lot of customers saying, well, it's hard to find a good barber when
Yeah,
they sit in your chair for the first time,
yeah,
right?
it is.
So our goal is to make all these people good barbers from
Yeah,
start to
man.
finish.
It's that's our main focus from our project, right? I mean, like we're not the best ones. I don't feel myself like a master barber or anything like that. I just wanna enjoy what I do.
Yeah.
Nowadays, with now we have this situation with COVID. I just enjoy my time, what I spend with you doing this project, but I also do my time with my boys, just to train them. But I think most important thing is that you still love what you do, and if you just do it for the money, it's like I said in the previous episode. Like, hey man, if you do that for the money, it ain't a good thing, right? You have to love things just because the love for the craft and not
Yeah.
what come with it. Yeah.
Well, so hopefully from the last episodes and some of our Instagram posts, we've got now maybe there's one or two people that have watched that are committed to this is what they really want to do, right? They're committed that they want to be of service to people. They're not tripping over how much money they're going to make. They're not tripping on becoming millionaires. So now their question is like, okay, what do I do now? Right?
I think it's you already know, like, hey, for me, like when I started, it was a different period, so we didn't have no barbers. But I think for you, it's especially for the states, it's a different kind of thing because barbering was always a little bit around, and in Holland it wasn't like that, right? Because we always
Yeah.
had mixture with women cutting, coloring, and gentlemen cutters. But I think nowadays it's pretty dope because you got all these different types of barbers, barber salons, barbershops, what hair salons and whatever. And I
Yeah.
think if I was like a student, I would like to find out what is suitable for me, right? If
Yeah.
I'm a guy that likes hip hop or like rock music, those are two different kind of places, right? That's
Yeah.
also a
Yeah.
different kind of culture and a different kind of setup, right? Um, I think you need to know, especially when you start, where you want to go, in which direction you want to go. You want to do old
Yeah.
school, you want to do new school, you want a little bit of both. I think that's really important to know which direction you can go from basic, right?
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Because I think in the end, for me, if you want to be an all-rounder, you have to be in every section of the whole craft, right? Modern, old school, maybe in between. maybe you want to even want to learn coloring. It's up to
yeah,
you. But I think mainly basic things. I always start like with the old school kind of barbering, because the
yeah,
new school already has a lot of techniques, and
yeah,
those techniques could might like whoa, that's a lot of information with all sections and this and that.
yeah,
And I think the old school kind of barber shops, they just cut hair.
yeah,
They trim it. Uh,
yeah,
Back in the day, it had this. Everybody has a sign, right? Visit your barber every 10 days. Well, that
yeah,
was in the beginning of the century, right? Because
yeah,
they just cut hair, trim everything off, make you neat, so everything under the hat is nice and clean. That was it. I think in the beginning it's so important to focus on rhythm and how do you say that? Repetition.
hmm
And I think like in the old school shops, you have that more because it's more of the same kind of haircuts. Because
yeah.
I always
Well, I think
see,
the old school, old traditional barbers from like the early 1900s, to you know World War I, two, or World War II especially, then post World War II.
yeah,
Then you get into like the 50s, 60s, the mid-century stuff, and those times, like every man had a hat, right?
yeah,
So,
yeah,
there wasn't really a focus on the blend as much, right? So yeah, barbers back then were very efficient. It was in, out, very short, very military
yeah, yeah,
uh, type haircuts. So it was almost, those days was like a one size fits all. You look at the old haircut, vintage haircut posters. There might be like 8 different ones. They have different names, but one just looks the same as the other, maybe just a little bit longer on top.
yeah, exactly.
So
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
think we've evolved now where technique is paramount, and there's not to offend the cat lovers, but there's that saying that there's more than one way to skin a cat, right? Or so there's always one way. There's more than one way to get to the end result.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
I think traditional old school barbering is good because that teaches you the basics, the fundamentals of just how to get it done.
yeah,
In a short amount of time.
yeah,
It'll be clean, efficient, no frills necessarily.
yeah.
And now we're in a day and age where we can mix a little bit of the both, old with the new, right? So
Exactly. But I think
yeah,
before you come to that mixture, you need to have the basics. And
yeah.
if I was a student and I need to look in this whole section of all sorts of barbers, I would stay and look at it, and I think like, you know what? I just go for the old school stuff because that's most of the time it's not easy, but what's easy? But I think
Yeah,
like most of the times they're the same haircuts, and I would stick with that. Then
yeah,
I need to know which kind of people do I need to work with,
yeah,
because I think if you want to have a longevity kind of career, you need to know like which kind of persons you fit in, right? Because I can work with hat bangers, but I'm not a type of guy that likes that music.
yeah,
I mean, like for me, I like every
yeah,
sort of music, but
yeah,
if I need to hear that metal every day, my mind will
yeah,
go, "Brrr,"
yeah,
So you have to figure out and identify yourself with sorts of people, sort
yeah.
of shop salon, and then you gotta apply for an apprenticeship, right?
Well, like you were saying, here in the States, it is different because you have two ways to go about it, right? You can go the fastest route, or the path of least resistance, would be to go to Barber College, right? Barber College could take up to 9 months if you go full time. Pay your tuition, and they teach you the basics of haircutting, the basic theory hours from a textbook, right? And then after 9 months, or after you've accumulated your hours, then you take the exam, your state exam, depending on what state you're in, and then the state will approve you for, if they feel you're capable to perform services as a licensed barber within your respective state. The second way is you can go the apprenticeship route, and it still goes through the state program, but it's more of a earning wage kind of situation where you can get your hours, work, make some money, but it's a 2-year process, right? So it's a longer process. Um, But it is through the state, and then after that 2 year process, you go and take the same exam that the Barber College students took, and get your license and go from there. So usually in my shop, I've never taken on anybody as an apprentice straight from no experience. I've taken on in my own in-house apprenticeship that I offer to barbers that have recently graduated and got their licenses. They don't have any or very little shop experience, and then I'll bring them in and do an in-house apprenticeship and teach them my system, my way of cutting hair, my way of customer service, and kind of bring them up to speed on my expectation levels as a shop owner and a traditional barber, offering traditional barber service.
What you think is the best option when an apprentice or somebody that starts? What you think
Yeah.
would be the best route? The 9 months or the 2 years? What you think would fit
Yeah,
in?
we touched on it on our last episode that barbering in general is very self-driven work, right? Uh, you have to be very disciplined in either one of those approaches that you take. For some, it depends on the situation. Some people are already like myself, or people like myself that are parents, or they got families and they already work at a job that provides and pays the bills. They don't have the luxury of just going to a school 9 months and not earning any income, plus having to find the tuition to pay for it, right? So in that case, an apprenticeship, a traditional apprenticeship, 2 year apprenticeship would serve them better. They get to learn on the job, which I think on the job, I don't think anything replaces on the job learning, right? So they can go in brand new, and as long as the barbershop owner is willing to invest in them and show them and teach them, they can be up and running and working pretty skilled within like 3 to 6 month period, right? If they dedicate themselves to it. Um, the other opposite end of that is on the barber school side. Usually, it's from my experiences and what I've seen from barber schools, at least here in California. A lot of the time, it's just the senior students teaching the new students. You don't get a whole lot of uh, experienced veteran barbers in these schools teaching them right from wrong. It's you pay your money, and then the owner may say, "Well, you go and stand by that guy and watch how he cuts hair and ask if you have any questions, ask him." So it's a lot of times it's the blind leading the blind, right? Monkey see, monkey do. This guy just cuts this way because that's how he learned in his garage. So now he's teaching the other guy. That's how you do it, with no real education of why and no what's the cause and effect of doing it this way. So I mean, each has their. If you want to get in fast, school 9 months license and get your on the job training. Uh, and then depending on your financial living situation, maybe the apprenticeship is better because you can get to at least work and make some money. Yeah.
Yeah, well, for here in Holland, it's a bit different because you don't got barber school.
Mhm.
Um, you have certificates, but that
Okay.
doesn't mean you're certified barber. For a state or for Holland. It's just a certificate. If you really want to be licensed, you have to do the how do you say that, hairdresser school, because then
Okay.
it's you get a diploma, right? And
Yeah.
then you're legally kind of, hey man, you're allowed to do it. But
Yeah.
since a couple of years, you don't have to have a full license.
Okay.
You can do your performance, if you have experience, yeah. And most of the people do that right now because here in Holland, it's kind of exploded a lot, and
Yeah.
everybody teaches and everybody give courses and all that kind of things. Um, there's a couple of that I find like, hey man, if you really want to learn, you have to learn one on one, right?
Mhm.
I think that's the most best thing I have learned in my career, right? That I had always a couple of guys that I learned from, mostly from my school. There was always one guy that always teach 8 till 10, 11 students, and he always
Okay.
passes by. And sometimes
Yeah.
there were even two. Um,
Yeah.
And even on the job, you know, the owner always did training days. So on the training day, he teach us directly, hey, this and that, and they already see how far you are, right? And if you're from zero, you have to have a lot of guidance. You know,
Yeah.
how to hold your scissor, how to hold your comb, how to comb the hair, how do you feel the hair, and how do you comb hair, because there is a lot of sensitivity on the skin, and it's not like you comb and you comb and you brush. Always have to adapt to every individual that sits in your chair. But I think with a good guidance, yeah, I've been fortunate. I think you too. You had your mentor that taught you.
Hmm. Yeah. And so, like with my mentor Dan, I was pretty much like fresh. I was the same as the guys that most of the guys that I hired, fresh out of school, no behind chair experience. Faking it till I could make it, and so it was through his tutelage and guidance and old school learning that I got to my learning curve got shortened. Right, I got And so I think we should talk about like since more than likely, since we do have apprenticeship programs of some sort in our respective countries, let's talk about like we're fresh, these interested people from our channel say, well, I want to go the apprenticeship route. So how do I go to a shop, right? How do I approach someone to be an apprentice, right? So um, let's even, let's so I'll take it as if they were approaching me as a newly licensed barber coming in and want to be a part of my in-house apprenticeship. We'll talk about you for those that are just looking to start from scratch in Holland or countries that it's not regulated by the state or the country on how you have to get X amount of hours. So they're going to approach you fresh off just off the street or just off the street to me, or even someone that wants to here in California or the States wants to become an apprentice and go the 2 year route, right? So what would be your number one tip first of the many that we'll give on what they should do, right?
For me, it's important what I learned. Um, you need to prepare. Yeah, like I
Yeah.
said, if you know what you want, I want to go to the old school route through that apprenticeship. I always say like, hey man, if I want to apply for an apprenticeship, I need to know the shop, how the shop rolls. Yeah, and I mean like visually, right? If you look at
Yeah.
behind me, or if you look at your background, you know, we kind of have like an old school vibe, right?
Yeah.
So if
Yeah.
you got an old school vibe, I'm not gonna come and knock on your door with
Yeah.
Nikes and my sweater from 3 days ago, right? If I want to
Yeah.
make some, yeah, you know,
Oh,
I want to make some.
we laugh, but it's not. That's you're not exaggerating because that
No,
actually is.
it is like
Yeah.
that, right? So for me, it's kind of like um, I need to explore, like, hey, man, what type of barbershop is it, and how do I need to present myself
Yeah. Your
for that
research,
owner,
right?
or for the people that work there? I want to
Yeah.
impress myself, right? You know, because I want something from them, right?
Yeah.
So that's the first thing that I always want to inform at, like, hey, okay, I want to work at MJ's shop. You know, hey, let me see on the internet how that shop rolls, right? What kind of cuts they do, how do they look, what is
Yeah.
the image of the shop. So
Right.
if I got that already, I think like, hey, cool. So I already know like, hey, he kind of like that old school vibe. Had nice clothing, a cool hat and everything, and I think like, okay, I can do that. I can fit that. I got some clothes, you know, that are pretty much
Yeah.
cool. If I already
Yeah.
know that,
Yeah.
I need to know, hey, what would impress that guy? Why
Yeah.
does he need to hire me? Because
Right.
I always say, like, there's a lot of people, you know, why are you the chosen one, you know?
Yes.
You know,
Exactly.
and I
Exactly.
think if you have that mentality, like, hey man, you need me, you know, like
Yeah.
that kind of attitude,
Yeah.
they kind of like, yo, hey, this something new. But I wouldn't do it like, I would do it personally. I wouldn't
Yeah.
go message on my Instagram or on my Facebook. Hey, yo,
Thank, yeah. Thank you for saying that. Thank
yeah,
you for saying.
hey man, I'm looking for a job. Do you got something for me? Like most of the
Dude,
time,
I had some in the past that sent me in my Instagram DM that just said, "Are you all hiring?" That was it. You
yeah.
know.
So for me, that's kind of like, yo, if I see that,
Yeah.
I'm like, nah, because we said in the first episode, right? Like, hey, yo, you need to have effort. If you show people effort, they kind of like, hey, this is something. Yeah,
Yeah.
he looks good. He got shiny shoes, and let's see what he's capable of, right? I think
Yeah.
what I've learned during my experience is I always write a letter,
Yeah.
yeah, a resume letter. Why? Because I think like they need to know who I am a little bit,
Yeah.
what I am, and where I want to go. Where did I worked? Yeah, and what do I want to go? And which kind of direction do I want to go? Do I want to just learn it fast and then split and open a barbershop, or am I a guy that really want to learn? And if it's your time after 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years, and
Yeah.
you're mature enough, you can say like, hey, yo, MJ, man, I've enjoyed
Yeah.
this 6 years, and maybe it's time for something new. And then I communicate with you like, hey, man, I'm very honored and thankful that you've taught me a lot of stuff, and but I think for now, it's time to go, right?
Yeah.
I kind of like that kind of.
Yeah. No, I think people tend to forget that, because barbering is a trade, and they do see a lot of it on social media as being a lot more informal, right? They see it as people having a lot more individuality and control, that a lot of times new and aspiring or upcoming barbers forget that there still needs to be a high degree of professionalism from the beginning, right? This, you're applying for a job like any other job you would apply to. If you were to say walk into a McDonald's and you're just wearing your 3-day old whatever clothes you've been, you didn't brush your hair, nails are not, you got dirty nails, you don't care for your appearance, and you just ask them, hey, can I get an application? A place like a McDonald's may give you the application and offer you an interview because there's a lot of turnover, and you're working sometimes behind the scenes, not necessarily up by the register with the customers, right? Uh, an example of when I graduated from college and I was doing a lot of interviews, but I was just going to interview for the sake of interviewing. At some point, I gave up even researching the companies. I just had an interview and then I went. And then the person would ask me, "So what do you know about the company?" And I'd be like, "Nothing." And that's not what somebody wants to hear when they're about to, they're giving time, expecting you to be the one to fill the void of the person that they need. And if you go in there like, "Oh, I know nothing about you guys," right? Today we don't have that excuse. You have social media. You can look at their Instagram. You can go on their website. And I've even told people, like, if you're interested in a barbershop, just go in there and get a service, get a haircut, get beard trim, like see how they interact with you as a customer. Now, if you as a customer feel valued from those services, maybe that place resonates better with you. You get to hear the music. Is that the kind of music you like? Like you spoke of, is that the kind of music you like? Like in the beginning when I opened my shop, it was very, and I still do play a lot of that. Still is like very Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Rat Pack, a lot of the classic stuff, and integrated with some older R&B, Motown. So I had a client one time saying, like, "Hey man, do you actually like this music, or do you just play it because this is the atmosphere you're trying to give?" And I told him, "Yeah, man, if I didn't like this music, why would I decorate a barbershop like like I would hate it. I would hate having to work at a place where I gotta listen to stuff that I don't even like, right? So you have to find a place that speaks to your soul, man, because barbering is about the heart and soul. And if you're in a place just because they're popular, but you don't like their vibe, you're not gonna give 100% to that place, man.
That's exactly, yeah, how I see it. Um, you have to fit in, right? And I think that's an important thing. And even like, if you have a resume, right, you write it down, you can post it. But what you also can do, if it's in the neighborhood or is it in another town or anything, just visit them with the resume, right?
Yes. Yes.
I think like they see you, maybe
Yeah.
put in some photos from your work or anything
Yeah.
like that, and they see like, yo, this dude put some effort in it, That
Yeah.
already gives a lot of plus points, for owners. You're a shop owner, I'm a shop owner, and I think like if you have that kind of thing, it already gives a lot of plus points, man. I think like if somebody gives that effort, he looks good, he smells good, and he gives that effort with a resume and show up, man, that's wow, But nowadays with social media and all that kind of stuff, it's everything is so for granted, right? Like, oh man, I just write text and maybe something comes out of it. No, man, you have to have what you say. You have to have that thing that yo, you're the one. This is why I want to hire you. And
Yeah, I'm big on like we're very similar in this regard. This is why we get along so well, and our barbering, our barbershops, and our barber styles are very similar. Is that we are men that believe a man, his handshake is his word is his bond, and his handshake is the signature on a contract, right? Like I value face to face interactions with people because then I get to feel at least initially what their sense of integrity is and what is the level of humility and character, where do they stand there. So it impresses me when someone can come in and introduce themselves, and even just if it's barbers from out of town that come in, they just want to come by and say hi because they follow on Instagram. Like I love that kind of stuff, man. And I'll make the time, even with a customer. I'll let the customer know, excuse me, and um, but I get, when I get someone that just sends me an email or sends me a direct message, if they just drop by the shop and ask if we're hiring, and I try to talk to them, I get a lot of people that say they want to come by to see the shop, and I'll say like, hey man, come by anytime. The open invitation, come by. If you want to talk, we'll get some coffee. Um, and nobody. This is this is funny. Nobody ever takes me up on that, right? And I don't know if it's intimidation or I don't know why they wouldn't, because like if I'm opening the invitation to share some knowledge and share some, nobody takes it up. So I don't know what the mindset is of today's barbers that don't want to at least connect and network, or at a minimum meet people that are willing to offer them some guidance in their journey, right? So yeah.
it's yeah, I don't want to say sad, but I mean like
Oh, it's kind of sad. I say it's sad.
yeah, because the thing is, I truly believe if you cannot or aren't able to do that, how you
Yeah.
gonna communicate with your customers then, right?
Yeah.
Because you have to have a little bit of vulnerability, and you have to have a little respect for your customers. You have to have respect for your colleagues and a shop owner, and also the shop itself, right? So I think it's very important to have that. And even though if you cannot reach the guy, at least show him your Instagram that's open. If you
Yeah.
message somebody, I think don't put your Instagram on private or anything. If
Yeah,
if
if you're
I
a
if I
barber, it should be done private. If you're a barber, right?
yeah,
Like if you're a barber, and if you want to have a separate account for your personal stuff, by all means, and make that one private. But
exactly,
if
yeah.
you want to be a barber to show clients, like, and don't put on your bio, click for appointments, but then everything is private and you can't see anything. What's the
No,
point?
what's the
So
point in it? Exactly. I think like,
yeah,
it doesn't matter if you're a newbie or you're an experienced. I think it's the most beautiful thing to
yeah,
have a journey.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
if you're a newbie and people see your journey, man,
Yeah.
you know, hey, if they see you stepping up like every month, like for wow, you know that
Yeah.
you know,
It's good even for our own self confidence to see
yeah,
how
of
much we've
course,
grown from the, yeah,
of
you know?
course. I mean, like I wasn't the comfortable guy that I am right now, man. I was like, I was really insecure, man. You know, a lot of people don't know that, but I doubt it, but that's also what I have in my life, man. That has anything that I do has to reflect is reflection, right? You see
Yeah.
that in your job, and your job see it in your life, right? It's always two things, right? And this thing, especially for a newbie or a guy that starts, do it the proper way, you know,
Yeah.
because you will be turned down a lot, but there's
Yeah.
only one guy that needs to believe in you, and
Yeah.
then you take the 200%, man. You know, and if
Yeah.
a guy have faith and
Yeah.
trust in you, man, grab that chance and just go for it. You know, I mean, like that's the only thing that you can do. And just you know, we already posted on our Roots of Barbering Instagram, you know, like, hey man, we start, a lot of people think like if they start with apprenticeship, they start cutting with hair.
Yeah.
Mm-mm-mm-mm-mm. For me, yeah, and
Yeah.
probably for you as well, the broom is your best friend, man.
If
You
you can
know.
sweep real good, come to my shop and go
Oh
sweep
yeah,
the front and show me you know how to
exactly.
sweep. Shoot, man. You
Because the
know?
thing is, this is what I want to explain to people: is it? It's not about cutting hair. It's about everything that is around it. Because for me, right? Yeah. A lot of shop owners, they treat their students or their apprentices as kind of the, I just say the word, just kind of like working slaves, you know, or working horses, you know, that you know, he can clean, he can do this, he can do that, you know. But for me, an apprentice is the most important guy that is the switch from the shop, man, you know. And if you're a good apprentice and you know how to apprentice and how the shop rolls so that you and I can work, and the customers get that coffee and they shake hand when they come in, like, hey, hello, how you doing, sir, man? You want to have, oh, you can put on your, you can put up your jacket over here, and do you want a coffee or tea or water or anything like that? Please sit down, man. You know, those
Yeah.
things are so important. You don't have a clue how important that is.
Yeah.
And I think like if you have that in mind as a starting career as a barber, like if you know all those things, if you know where everything is in the shop,
Yeah.
man, you know, you have a bright free future, you know, because